Okay, this is a lesson in creating methods of creating planes in SolidWorks. And I'm starting with a very simple shape just to use as kind of reference. So we create planes from the feature toolbar, and we come down to reference geometry and create plane. And here on the left, we have our dialog box, and it says select references and constraints, and you get up to 3 reference planes. One works sometimes, 2 is very common. I really am not sure when I've ever used all 3 reference planes. So let's start simple. If I just choose a plane here, I'll choose this plane. That by default makes a parallel plane a distance of, well, in inch, pound, seconds, units, it is 0.1 or 100 thousandths of an inch. So we can change that to an inch, say. Now that plane is 1 inch away from that edge. And if I hit the check mark, that would create that plane. I can always edit this as a feature, I could sketch on this plane, but I can edit it also if I right-click and edit feature. And maybe I want that plane to be internal inside of this, so I could flip the direction or the offset of that plane. So now I created a new plane 1 inch from that surface. Okay. That is not directly in the middle. This is just some obscure shape. It really wasn't even mentioned, but if I want to create a plane directly in the middle of between this plane and this plane, there's a really nice and easy way to do that. Reference geometry, plane, and this time I will choose my first reference as this plane. You see it pop this out here and to 1 inch. But as soon as we choose a second reference, this plane, that located plane number 2 directly in the center between this surface and this surface. That can be very helpful in tasks like mirroring. We'll just accept that. Let me see over here, we have plane 1 and plane 2. All right, here's another method of creating plane. This time I want an angled plane. I mean, this surface here, if I click, that's going to be an angled plane, but the plane is already angled, but maybe I want to draw a shape that is angled or cut a whole angular off of a different face. So I can clear this reference. And this uses 2 references. This, we'll just use this face again. And this time we're going to use, for second reference, it's already blue and highlighted for me to choose a reference. I'm going to use an edge. Be careful not to grab the point. The point will act differently than the edge. It's the midpoint of that edge. But I want the edge. And you see what that did is made this plane, and oh boy, this plane, and it's really 90 degrees off of that. So here I can turn on the angle, and notice now I have a 45-degree plane. This can be any angle. And if I flip the offset, you can see there I created a plane 45 degrees. Let's make it something other than 45 just for 60, maybe a common. And maybe I don't like that, and I flip direction. So when I'm creating plans, I'm usually kind of playing with it until I get a plan that I know I want. And planes, again, are infinite. You can drag them, but you wouldn't have to. But it just kind of makes more, some people like to drag it where they're going to draw. Okay, so I have this plane, and just quickly, we have 3 planes, but I can start a sketch by just right-clicking on the plane and going to sketch, or I can come over here and right-click and start a new sketch. For instance, this would be, without creating an angular plane, it'd be really tough to drill an angular hole unless you just go through all, for example, and you can see that hole goes all the way through on a 60 or 30-degree angle. That is the very basics of creating planes to enhance your parts.